Hello, Ben. Good morning.
Hello, Yaron. Good morning. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Great. I'm great and ready for today's monthly webinar. It's great to see a lot of people here. And we have a really interesting webinar today. We're going to talk about 2025. We're going to talk about what's the algorithm thinks about the market for the next month. We have a great new package for you guys. So stay tuned. We have a really interesting webinar today. And we're going to start in a few more minutes. Last adjustment.
Okay, Ben. I think we can start. What do you think about the market today?
After 4 days of upgoing trend, I think it's going to be a little bit volatile, but I think we're going to see what the algorithm thinks about the market today, which is more interesting for the next weeks. And if you have a question for us during the webinar, please send us the questions through the Q&A that you have in your Zoom features. Do not use the chat, use the Q&A, and we'll try to answer all of your questions at the end, in the middle of the webinar. And so we're going to start in a minute. Just a quick disclaimer that I know first, the daily market focus does not provide personal investment or financial advice to individual or active personal financial legal advice advisor or individually advocate the purchase or sale any of security investment of the use of particular financial strategy. All investing, stock forecast, and investment strategies, including risk and might have lost some or even all of your capital before any pursuing any financial strategies discussed on this website, on this webinar. Please consult with licensed financial advisor, of course.
Hey,
Are we
what is your
ready?
favorite stock for May, Ben?
Until and the other one is like I think a Sophie.
We didn't hear you for some second, so I missed Plantier. What did you say, Plantier?
Yeah, Palantir. I think is the favorite one. The other one is actually Sophie, SOFI.
Okay,
We're gonna
interesting.
talk about it later.
Okay, fine with me.
All right, so let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's start. It's good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to see so many people. We have a very interesting webinar today that Ben and the team have prepared. We're going to see some live examples from the market today, from the market in Friday, but also some live predictions for the upcoming month. We have very interesting period, very volatile with a lot of opportunities. And we are going to discuss today how we can identify those opportunities by using AI, basically. So I'm going to start with a quick overview, and then we're going to jump immediately to the market and talk about the market and about some interesting products that can bring to some of you a very interesting access to some advanced portfolios that we are offering. I know first, we are AI company. Our main solution is a predictive algorithm that generates daily forecast for the financial market and identifies the most promising investment opportunities on a daily basis. We are utilizing different AI approaches, deep learning, artificial neural network, genetic algorithms to predict the financial market. Our predictive algorithm is generating daily forecasts for over 13,500 assets from different asset classes. equities, ETFs, commodities, currencies, interest rates, with daily forecast for multiple time frames, short-term, mid-term, and also long-term. This is a global solution. We are covering over 50 global stock exchanges, including the stock exchanges in the US, Canada, Europe, and also Asia. The algorithm has also ability to rank the different markets around the globe and to see where the opportunity is, from which region we should focus on also which regions we should avoid. Basically, we should see it also in this webinar. So let's jump directly to the market. Ben, what do we see here? You are muted.
Yeah, we are seeing the buzz package from Friday, actually, and we can see the 3 days time frame and the 5 stocks that the algorithm has suggested us to buy for a period of 3 days. This was generated on the 23rd of April and sent to all of our clients, and we can see those returns from Friday actually, while the stock hood went up by 2.7% and coin by 2.8%. And you can see DraftKings, the gambling stock in the bottom here, which was painted red, actually moved down by minus 1.14%. So the algorithms actually gave us long opportunities as well as short opportunities. And we'll see more examples such as this in the rest of the webinar.
By the way, what's interesting about this forecast is that right now DraftKings is continuing to slide down and wood is continuing to go up.
Yeah, it's a 3
I haven't
days.
checked the rest, but yes. Let's introduce the team. The I know first predictive algorithm was developed by our unique R&D team that includes PhDs, AI and machine learning experts. The R&D team is being led by Dr. Lipa Reutemann, one of the leading experts in the field of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and chaos theory from the Weizmann Institute of Science. Dr. Reutemann is leading the R&D team that includes different employees with the background of math, statistics. We have math professor from Tel Aviv University as part of the core R&D team, as well as employees with the background of data science, math, statistics, engineers, and also IDF veterans, specifically from the intelligence units. Ben Rubin is the head of our advisory team. Ben used to work for one of the leading banks in Israel as a financial advisor, and now he is leading our advisory services team. My name is Yaron Golger. I'm the CEO and co-founder of I Know First. I'm also lecturing at one of the leading universities in Israel. I'm an engineer with MBA. The I Know First predictive algorithm is being trusted by the world's leading hedge funds, investment houses, family offices, banks, as well as brokerage firms. But also, the I Know First predictive algorithm is being used by retail traders from all over the world that utilizing the AI technology in order to identify opportunities on a daily basis in the market, and also in order to track their own portfolio. Some of the institutional clients that you see here are utilizing systematic trading strategies that we have developed. We are going to discuss it in the second part of the webinar. And some of them are even offering financial products that are utilizing the systematic trading strategies that we have developed. We are going to discuss it at the second part of the webinar, as said. The predictive algorithm that you're going to see has received several awards, including from UBS, from the Geneva Wealth Tech Forum, from the Entity Data Forum in Japan. And Yes, you can see here several photos from those awards. We are proud to lecture in the Reichman University for the third year already to talk about artificial intelligence, fintech, and other subjects. In our website, you can find also some of the articles and media articles, TV reports that different media channels did about the predictive algorithm. And you can find also different reviews that can assist you to identify the package that could be relevant for you guys. Yes, Ben.
Um, if you haven't joined to our WhatsApp community yet, please feel free to do so. We are uploading AI articles, forecasts almost on a daily basis. We have a growing community that's getting bigger and bigger every day. So please scan the QR code and join our WhatsApp group community. And today we're going to upload, after the webinar, the forecast for the Magnificent Seven for the next month. So worth being a part of our community. So just scan the QR code and join us. And in the same way, if you want to see a lot of videos that we are upload almost on a daily basis, please join our YouTube channel. You can do it by scanning the QR code, a lot of interesting videos about stocks, comparing stocks, for example, which was better, Tesla or Uber. That was really an interesting video. So feel free to join our YouTube channel.
Okay, so basically, we are offering two solutions to our client. On one hand, we are offering daily prediction, daily AI-powered forecast for the financial market that can assist you guys to identify opportunities in the market on a daily basis. On top of that, we have developed several systematic trading strategies. Those strategies are being used by different hedge funds, family offices, as well as banks and investment houses that utilizing those systematic trading strategies in order to manage their portfolio in a systematic way. Most of the strategies are relying on the monthly rebalancing, while the AI algorithm is basically identifying and constructing the portfolio for the upcoming month in a systematic way for both long and short. We are going to discuss it, as said, in this webinar as well, and we're going to see several strategies. Some of the strategies as being converted already to financial products that are being listed in different stock exchanges around the globe. The I know first predictive algorithm includes three components. By utilizing the first component, it's possible to identify opportunities in the market on a daily basis. By utilizing the second component, it's possible to receive stock market intelligence, to identify leading sectors, to identify leading regions that are emerging around the globe, to receive insights regarding the direction of the main indices in the US, in the Europe, and in other regions as well, and also to receive insights regarding regions and sectors that we should avoid on a daily basis. And the third component is providing us a custom AI-powered portfolio analysis. Basically, our AI is analyzing each client portfolio and providing a custom forecast for each client portfolio. And by using this custom solution, it's possible to receive and to identify which part of the portfolio we should basically keep and which part of the portfolio we should replace with the opportunities that the AI is suggesting on a daily basis, basically. So how we do it? It's not a magic. It's a science. It's a technology. The I know first predictive algorithm is collecting quantitative data sets that are coming from the entire financial market. We are utilizing data that coming from the different equities market that we are monitoring, over 50 global stock exchanges. We are collecting data that coming from the interest rate environment, data that coming from the commodities market, from the currency market. Basically, we are trying to add all the daily data that's available, all the financial daily data that's available. We are adding the daily data to our database. We are managing database with historical data. And from that point, the algorithm is taking the control and basically building the complex network that exists in the financial market. In the financial markets, there are thousands of correlation sets, and the algorithm is able to model this complex network and to build all the relationships and all the correlation sets on a daily basis without any human intervention. And you guys are receiving the bottom line of this process. You are receiving daily prediction with the best opportunities for the different timeframes that we see on the right, short-term, mid-term, and also long-term. This process is taking place on a daily basis. So every day, without any human intervention, the algorithm is constructing and updating the complex network that exists in the financial market and releasing an updated, fresh forecast with the best opportunities. In terms of the technology, we are combining different AI approaches into one AI algorithm. We are utilizing deep learning, artificial neural networks, genetic algorithms, reinforcement learning. And the goal in this entire process is to separate and to focus on the most predictable assets. And this is maybe the first tip for today. Always try to identify the most predictable assets from each investment universe that you are following. We are going to show you in this webinar how to identify the most predictable assets from each investment universe. So basically, if we're taking the process, if we're taking the 500 stocks that building the S&P 500 index on a daily basis, the algorithm is filtering out the assets that are less predictable and focusing on the most predictable assets from the S&P. And we are doing the same process for every investment universe. In the US, we're taking the entire US market, applying our technology, focusing on the most predictable assets, and then we are ranking the stocks based on the signal that each stock got, basically. And you are receiving the bottom line, the best stocks, the best opportunities for the different timeframes on a daily basis.
The forecast actually comes in the shape of a heat map. As we can see in the slide, the green cells represent long position, while the red one represents a short position. And the algorithm is actually help us to focus on the best stocks with two indicators. The first one is the signal that is located in the center of each of every square. As we can see, for example, in AMHO stock, we can see the signal is 249. And the signal is actually representing the predictive movement of the asset, the strength of the predictive movement of the asset, and it helps us to rank the entire investment universe from the stock that have the most potential to move to the direction of our color. And we can see that the signal is going down to the right, and in the bottom right one, in the stock called the CORT port, we have a negative, the strongest negative signal, which means that this specific stock is supposed to go down. The signal is our internal index that moves from minus infinity to infinity. And again, it goes through all the assets that we cover, and it helps us to actually compare between the assets. And we're going to see examples for using the signal later on. The second indicator is the predictability indicator, which is located on the left bottom of each and every square. And that specific indicator is actually telling us how good the algorithm can actually predict the specific asset It's a Pearson correlation measurement. It moves from -1 to 1. And zero point 0.0 actually represents 50% probability of the asset to move to the predicted direction. So 0.5 will be around 75% probability that the asset will move to the predicted direction. And in this webinar, we're going to show you how we are trying to focus on the highest values of predictability because that we're giving more weight to the predictability indicator, and we'll see how important this indicator is. So we have two indicators, the signal and the predictability, that go through all the map, and we're going to see a few examples for that. So after signing into the service every morning, you will get the forecast that looks uh, uh, just like that with 6 time frames from 3 days, 7 days, 14 days, and a longer time frames of 1 month, 3 months, and 1 year. In each and every time frame, we have 10 stocks that the algorithm gives us for long and 10 stocks for a short position, if we can find a short position. So we can see here that in every time frame, we have different stocks, or some of them we have some similar stocks. We would look for a stock that appears in multiple time frames. We would look for stocks with high predictability values. If we're looking at the 3 months, so above the 0.6, considered like a high predictability. So we're going to try to focus on those stocks that are actually in multiple time frames and have high predictability and high signals. And we'll see examples for those right ahead. In this specific example, we can see a forecast that was generated on 22nd of April in 2025. This is a 3 days forecast, and we can see that the algorithm is actually chose for us the best stocks to focus on for the next 3 days. And to the right, we can find the results of those stocks. We can see the performance of the 10 stocks. In the bottom, we can see the INO first average compared to the S&P 500 that moved this 7.12. The average was 13%. But if we can focus on some particular stocks that have good predictability and good signals, such as Copen, we can see that it moves almost 30%. And we can also find Netflix with high predictability here that moves 11%. But this is, again, the shortest time frames of 3 days. We also, of course, can look to the 7 days, which more volatile universe. Those stocks belong to more volatile universe, to the option package. And here we can find stocks that have really high signals compared to the others. Always look at the signals compared to the other stocks, and we can see that OMEX almost have, for example, 11.84 signal, while the rest of the stock moves around the 0.5, 0.2, and we see how strong OMEX compared to the others with 11 signal. The predictability is not that high, but the signal is really, really high. So we can see that that stock actually moved 170% in 7 days. We can see another example of JAGX that moves almost 100%. But again, this universe is more volatile and involve a higher risk investment if you're enjoying those kind of investments. In the 14 days time frame, we have the same kind of a forecast over 14 days. It was generated on April 13, and we can see that Group 1 GRPN moved 4%, while other stocks such as HTZ moved 113%, and the average of this forecast was around 16.5%, while the S&P moved 3%, and that's in a period of 2 weeks. And as Yaron mentioned earlier, we can also have not just the long position, also some short positions. It's a long-short algorithm that gives us opportunities for each and every side, to all of the sides. So in this case, in 26th of March, we got a red prediction for the S&P itself, a short position for the S&P index itself, as we have in our top packages, all the top packages, the top 5, top 10, top 20, and the top 40, all of them containing the S&P index forecast as well as the stocks. In this case, we can find the stocks such as Abercrombie and KD, XPO, ZBRA from different investment universe that the algorithm actually suggested to short, while the S&P actually moved minus 4.3 in this month. Our package has performed 10% in this from those short positions. And in the same way, if you want to trade for a longer time frame, such as 3 months, we can see here that predictability here is much higher than the shorter time frames. We can find stocks such as CNO that has high predictability, as we can see here, 0.6. And actually that stock moved by 12% in those 3 months. And if you're counting the month from the 31 of December, doing a positive return in a long position is pretty rough. And we can see that the S&P actually moved down by 5%. So the algorithm, even in the going down market, can locate it and identify long positions and succeed with an average forecast of 4.43%. And we can also see that not all of the stocks are going to the right direction. We can see some stocks that move to the opposite direction. It's a not 100% work all the time algorithm. And of course, sometimes we have some mistakes and failures, but the majority of the stocks move to the right direction and actually outperform the market by almost 10% alpha, which is really impressive to this kind of a market that we experienced in 2025. And for even the longer time frames of 1 year, the algorithm suggests us stocks to hold for the next year. MSTR, I don't know how many people knew MSTR actually in 2020, well, maybe in the end of 2024, but in 26th of April, ASML, MSTR was leading this forecast with almost 200% and in this year. So we saw also a positive return for the S&P for this specific year. That was generated actually 1 year ago, in the 26th of April, 2024. Some of the stocks are actually interesting given today, and we're going to talk about it in the next.
And it's interesting in this forecast. As you said, it's interesting to highlight the predictability level that we see here. Remember, guys, it varies between -1 and 1, and we are almost hitting 1 here. And this is the second tip for today. There are many institutional clients that utilizing the 1 year forecast because of the high predictability, even for in order to decide regarding their monthly portfolio. So take into account also the long-term predictions. It can assist you with your portfolio constructions. Another interesting thing that related to Netflix that you have mentioned, it's interesting to see that the algorithm mapped Netflix on the beginning of last week, even before the earnings, and then Netflix published their good earnings, and we saw the very interesting movement that being reflected in this heat map.
Yep.
And okay, we are in 2025, and as we know, the shorts are part of the market. The market is volatile, and the algorithm can assist us also to identify those negative trends. And we can see that each top 10 forecast or top 20 forecast includes also daily S&P 500 forecast, as Ben mentioned before. And here we can see two interesting examples. On the left, we can see a prediction from 2023. We can see that from March 2023, we started to see negative predictions for the S&P, and the strongest signals came from the bottom of the heat map. And among those tickers, we can find several tickers that are related to the banking industry in the US, including First Republic Bank, FRC, and also Silicon Valley Bank, SIVB. 3 minutes after this prediction was, 3 days, sorry, after these predictions was issued, we started to see basically the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. So it's interesting to see that the AI managed to identify the crisis in the financial market that we have seen in 2023. And on the right side, we can see another example from the end of February 2020, 25th of February 2020. Back then, we started to see a very strong negative signals for the S&P 500. In this period, the market was more or less quite stable. But after 3 days, we started to see and we understood what the AI algorithm identified. We saw actually the sharp decline in the S&P 500 due to the COVID virus, basically. We can see also that the strongest signals came from the bottom of this heat map.
Yeah, so it's a long, short algorithm, as we said, and let's see some examples from the last few days. Actually, this is examples from Friday. We can see in the top 10 forecast that we talked about earlier, the two leading stock was Coin and PLTR, Palantir, and we saw that movement on Friday, while Palantir moved almost 4.67%, and Coin almost 3%. Those were the two leading stocks from the top 10 in the 25th of April. Our top 20 package is one of the popular package and contains stocks from the entire US market. And again, to those stocks, we are adding the forecast about the S&P index itself. Another interesting example that we have from Friday, it's the stocks package, the semiconductors package. We can see that the algorithm actually marked the stock Wolf and AMD, which was really interesting in the last few days. And those stocks also actually moved up by 4% and 2.3 for 14 days forecast. This is a 14-day forecast. Of course, you will get all the 10 stocks. I removed the 8 others. And just mark the two strongest signals in this specific forecast. Another interesting example from today actually is from the consumer package, the XLY sector.
Oh, Ben, sorry to interrupt you. You're going to like it. Wolf that you just mentioned, I wasn't aware, but it's jumping by 24% as we speak, I think, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. So this forecast was actually generated on the 25th of April, as you can see here, before the trading start, and it's for the next 14 days. So which from our clients who bought Wolf are already 24% up in this specific stock, and in the same way from the XLY package, we saw Tesla, AJS, TZR, CMG, BBWI, that also all moved in. In the beginning of the trade, I just took a quick example of what they did, and I saw some positive return. And I hope it's still that way, because I see the market moves from green to red a little bit. But again, this forecast is for 3 days, not just 1 day. And again, the predictability here is a little bit lower than the rest of the time frames. So we are suggesting to focus on the highest values of the predictability and signal. And another interesting forecast is the Russell 2000 forecast. We can see the best five stocks out of the Russell 2000 in the beginning of the trading, like just open when we opened the trading day was open. All of those stocks were colored green. The five first leading stocks for 7 days time frame. Also interesting to see the universe of the Russell 2000. It actually got quite a hit in the last few months from the beginning of 2025, but we're seeing a bit of a recovery in the last few days. And talking about Palantir and one of my favorite stock, when Yaron asked me at the beginning of this webinar, that's the reason why I like this stock, by the way. From the 31 of October, Palantir was marked by our algorithm in a good and high predictability and a good signal. We can see this is a 3 months forecast from the 31 of October 2024. And by that time, we can see the timing actually of this forecast is quite amazing because it was actually here in the beginning of November, before the earnings. The algorithm gave a 3 months positive prediction, and the stock actually surged more than 88% in this time frame. So Palantir is one of the leading stocks that actually looks good even today in our forecast. And for those stocks and packages that we saw, we are suggesting you an interesting and unique webinar sale. You get 1+1 of all of our packages for $299 per month, no commitment, and you can cancel it every time. All the packages that you see so far, which is the top 10, the BAS package, we also including the ETF package and many other packages that we're going to see in this webinar are included in this webinar sale. You get two packages for $299 per month. And this webinar sale is for the next 24 hours to take advantage of this amazing webinar sale that we have. We have two more interesting sales for you guys, and we're gonna discover them in a bit. So let's talk about 2025, which started with the great volatility by the man behind this board, Donald Trump, that actually kind of crashed the markets in the beginning of the year, and even in the last of 2024, we saw a big decline in the market on December. The start actually of 18 and in December. But our algorithm actually gave us multiple signs for this drop in the market. And the algorithm actually can produce a stock market intelligence. And I'm going to show you how exactly did we predict that. If we're looking of the 18th of December heat maps, we can find several interesting things. The first one is the S&P 500, the package that you all can purchase in the webinar sale was completely actually red. The 3 days time frame was red. We saw a lot of other time frames really painted red. So that's the first red flag that we see in this forecast. The next indicators that we saw is the S&P index itself, as you can get in the top 10 and top 20 packages, was also painted red. So if the index itself is red, it means that something happening in the market, some volatility can occur in the market. And more than that, we saw the VIX, which is the fear index, the volatility index of the S&P, leading the forecast with a really high signal. You can see the signal of 0.49 in the 3 days, which is pretty high compared to the others. So we know that the volatility is coming up in the market. And our sector map, our level 1 sector map, was also painted most of it red. We saw the red signals are stronger than the positive signal. So we actually knew that something going to happen in the market. And we also saw it, by the way, in the beginning of 2025. If this is the beginning of 25, the 1st of January forecast was quite the same. The VIX even went higher. The volatility even got higher. And we can see the S&P and the Dow Jones painted red. So again, we knew that there are some volatility in the market, and we saw a drop of 16% from the beginning of the year. I mean, the biggest drop was almost 16.5%. If we're looking at the beginning of 2025, until the lowest point of the S&P 500. So what does it mean that we cannot actually be in the market? No, we have other alternative that the algorithm actually is suggesting us on a daily basis. In this case, in our indices forecast that gives us more than 175 main indices around the globe, we saw that the DAX was positive while the S&P was actually negative. So we know in some of the hedge funds that we work with, we actually told them that information that might consider move some money from the U.S. market to other markets such as the European market, and we're going to see a few more examples of that European market that I'm talking about. But in the main idea, the DAX, the German DAX looks much better than the S&P, and we can see the returns of 11% compared to almost minus 7% of the S&P 500. And the next drop that we saw in the market in 2025 was in February. I guess you all remember that one. That actually started on the 20th of February. But in this case as well, the algorithm also gave us some red flags. We can see if we're looking at the 3 days time frame, the S&P, the Nasdaq, the Dow Jones were all red. And in the indices forecast, we saw the VXN, which is the volatility index of the Nasdaq itself. And of course, we saw the S&P and the Nasdaq also negative, even a few days after the beginning of the drop. We can find here that if 25, if we're looking at this specific forecast, 25 of February, it's around this place. We knew here that the market is heading down, and we told our hedge fund clients to actually be aware of the volatility that's supposed to happen ahead. And now we actually, in the same time, of course, the algorithm can also find stocks that went up in the same time. As we said earlier, it's not just a long algorithm, it's a long short, but in this case, the algorithm provides us long positions for the market. We can see here, for example, Palantir that we talked about, FFIV, Hood, Robinhood, and KTOS, which is interesting stock, by the way, that moved from the beginning of the year. We can see the numbers, they are pretty crazy. I mean, if the S&P is down by 5% from the beginning of the year, and those stocks actually climbed to double figures. So with high signals, we can see the signals and predictability. That gives us an advantage in this volatile market. And in some other packages that we have, such as the ETF package, we can find that in the 3rd of February, actually, the algorithm not gave us not just the insight of be aware of the American market. He actually tells us to invest in the European markets. We can find ETF here that belongs to the European markets, such as EWI, which is MSCI Italy, FEZ, which is the Eurostox 50. We can find EWD, which is Sweden, and EWQ, which is Europe. We can see a lot of ETFs that belongs to the European market. And that's, again, after seeing the DAX positive, tell us to swift or to move our money to the European stock exchanges. And by trading, of course, the American ETFs. Yeah, we don't trade on the European stock exchanges. You can just buy those ETFs in the American stock exchanges. So the ETF package also providing us a really good intelligence. And you can see here from the 5th of March, but the entire ETF universe was pointing on Europe. We can see here Switzerland with EWL. We can see EWG, which is Germany. EWP, which is Spain, is one of the most successful ETFs from the beginning of 2025, by the way. And after 3 days after the drop, 3 days after the drop, you can still see a lot of European forecasts, a lot of European ETFs that was positive in the same day. And if the average was 2.82, while the S&P moved down by 4%, that gives you a really big advantage on the market. I really like the ETF package, and we're going to see a better view or chart of those ETF compared to the S&P. We can see the S&P here with minus 0.57%, while the rest of those ETFs have double figures like 10%, even 20%, 17%. We can find all of those ETFs here to the left that actually really outperformed the market and kept us in the good green area of the forecast. So another interesting area, by the way, that we saw from the beginning of 2025, actually it was more obvious in the last few months, was the India stock exchange, the Indian market. You can see a really good positive forecast from the 3rd of April, the beginning of the month. EPI and Indy. Indy is like it's the Nifty 50 index. EPI is the Indian fund, and we saw from this specific date, from the 3rd of April, which is around here, that this big going up line that the algorithm suggests us to buy to get to a long position on the Indian market. Other interesting forecasts that we saw in packages is the Buzz Stock Exchange that we saw earlier. We have multiple stocks here, such as the Magnificent Seven. We can find here Boeing, Ford, PayPal, a lot of stocks that we all talk about them on our daily conversations, daily coffee friends, and we can see that those stocks have a lot of buzz in the social media and other medias that we are encountering in. So we can find here a list of a lot of stocks such as Palantir, Nvidia, Cusco, Pfizer, Uber, a lot of interesting stocks that we all talk about. So this specific package has this big pool of stock, and the algorithm provides us the best 10 stock for different time frames on a daily basis. We can see some examples for those stocks. If we're looking on the April 18, we can see Palantir is here, we can see Netflix is here, we can see Nvidia here, Uber and CVNA, and even the Bitcoin and the gold was also part of this forecast. So which bring us an average of 10.7 compared to the S&P, which is 4.5. Another example is from the little bit long a while ago, from the 5th of February. You can see Palantir, we can see CVNA, Uber as well, and all of those stocks were signed and marked by the algorithms to buy for a period of 14 days. So this package is also available in the webinar sale. And now I'm going to talk about some of our most interesting package that we ever launched. We talked about it in the last webinar, if you guys remember, the institutional package. This package is actually containing the best stocks out of all of the packages that we have. Once a month, the algorithm picks the best 10 top picks from our entire investment universe and combine into one portfolio. This portfolio can contain stocks or ETFs. And in this specific case, we can see that the last portfolio was a little bit, I think it was one day after the webinar, our last webinar was launched on April 2. And in this day, the algorithm gives us the best 10 stocks or assets to hold for a 4 weeks period. You don't have to choose from time frames. You don't have to pick by signals or predictability. You just get the list of top 10 stocks that you should hold for the entire month, a long position only. And these are the performance of the portfolio. I think it's quite amazing. And it's almost more than 5% alpha. The portfolio made the 2.84%. The S&P went down by 2.24, and we can see the assets that it was included in this portfolio. We can see Palantir with almost 30%. We can find TTWO, we can find Uber and Microsoft. And most amazing thing I think around here that 8 out of those 10 stocks actually created an alpha on the S&P 500. I mean, this is really unique to this market. And just try to remember what we had this month in the market with the Trump Liberation Day and the volatility that we had this month. And this actually portfolio managed to provide us almost 3%, while the market went down by 2.2%. I think it's quite interesting and unique. By the way, if you were bought the portfolio a day after, the return was also even higher, was around 6.5%. The same assets that we saw in the last slide gave us almost 6.5%. The S&P gave 2.6%, and we can see the P&L for all of those assets during this month. And the next rebalancing that we have for this specific package is on April 30. It's like in 2 days from now. We are launching the next rebalance. So if you want to join this pretty unique package that we have, the institutional AI-powered institutional portfolio, you should do it now, because in 2 days the train is leaving. We have it from the 30th of April is the next rebalance, and you get the next 10 stocks to hold for entire month. So you can get this webinar sale for $349 per month, paid once in every 6 months. Really unique, the top of the stocks from all of our packages. The algorithm picks it for you. You just have to sit back and relax and buy the stock that the algorithm suggested to you. You don't need to choose time frames or any predictability or signal. Just get the best stock and buy them for the entire month.
Yes, a few remarks about this interesting portfolio. If you're going back to the performance side, I see questions regarding the weights. This is an equally weighted portfolio. So basically, you can divide your entire portfolio between those 10 stocks. It's a long-only portfolio. So every month, always, the algorithm is focusing on the long side. It's interesting, now to remember what happened during the last month. On April 2, basically we saw a Trump announcement regarding the tariffs, the Liberation Day, and that brought strong volatility to the market. And we can see that despite this tremendous volatility, the algorithm was able to find stocks that have outperformed the market, including, let's analyze what do we see here. So we see interesting stocks such as Palantir, TTWO, Uber, Microsoft from the Magnificent Seven. But we see also India here. It's interesting to see that the algorithm identify India as an interesting place that can be relevant specifically for this month. Yeah, it's interesting to see the performance specifically during this period, this volatile period. It's designed for long only investors, and it's almost similar to the portfolios that some of our institutional clients are focusing on. So this portfolio is being released every 4 weeks. And as Ben said, the next rebalancing for this portfolio is on Wednesday.
Yeah, so in this specific package, we are using our market intelligence, algorithm market intelligence, to get the best picks for the next month. And if you want to combine the two webinar sales that we have, you can do it in this webinar sale number 3, 12-month subscription. You can choose one of your packages that we saw so far, if the top 10, if it's the buzz, if it's the AI stock, if it's the top 20, if it's the S&P universe, any packages that you want, and combine it with the institutional portfolio and get it for $299 per month, paid every 12 months, and you will get both of those packages. I think it's one of the most great sales that we had, because you can combine a monthly portfolio in the institutional portfolio and get a daily forecast for the market, combining the top 10 or the buzz or the ETF package with the institutional package. I think it's the winning combination. And this webinar sales is available for next 24 hours. So rush up and get this webinar sale. And I think it's one of the most interesting packages and combination that we had in INO First since I remember myself working here. So the portfolio, the institutional portfolio, is a really, really interesting package that you can use for a monthly trading. All right, let's talk about our choice. Yaron.
Yes. So my first choice for this month, I see a lot of questions regarding which two packages should we choose, basically. I would suggest of course, to get the institutional portfolio, and also I think the tech sector could be interesting for the upcoming month. And I do suggest to utilize the AI in order to identify the best opportunities from the tech sector. And later on in this webinar, I think we will be able to see why I prefer the tech sector for the upcoming month.
Yeah, I'm thinking about combining the institutional portfolio as well with the BAS package to get some more instant and interesting stocks, volatile stocks. I like more volatile stocks, so the BAS package I think is one that I'm more connected to. So to sum up, we have a 3 webinar sales for you. The first one is the 1+1 for $299 per month. You can choose any 2 packages that you want from the packages that we showed you so far, and many more. And this is, of course, without no commitment, and you can cancel it anytime, and you can change the packages every month, of course. The second webinar is that is the institutional portfolio for $349 per month, paid every 6 months. You get the best 10 picks to hold for the next month. And the third webinar sale is combining the two, is getting one package with the institutional portfolio in a monthly subscription, paid every 12 months for $299 per month. One of our most interesting webinar sales. And all of those are available for the next 24 hours. So before what we're going to see, what's the algorithm think about the market for the next few weeks. We're going to talk really swiftly about our artificial intelligence strategies. I don't know if you're all aware for the Geeks Level 1 and the Geeks Level 2, the main sectors of the S&P 500. The Geeks Level 1 contains 11 main sectors, which you all know, of course, such as the energy, the technology, XLK, the real estate, XLRE, or the healthcare, XLV. And it includes 24 industries that belong to those 11 sectors. If we have the semiconductors or the home builders or the regional banks, such as KRE. With these two Geeks Level 1 and Geeks Level 2, we actually managed to build a strategy that the algorithm is on a monthly basis, focused on three best Geeks Level 1 sector and hold them for the entire month. This strategy was actually outperforming the market since 2020. We can see with 141% compared to the 83% of the S&P 500. And we can see here in on a yearly basis, the performance of of this specific strategy. We can see outperforming in 2020 and even 21. In 22, we had minus 6.44%, while the S&P had almost minus 20%. And of course, in 24, with 30%, while the S&P did 25%. This is a really popular strategy among our institutional clients. And we can see here just a quick example of which sectors the algorithm actually picks on each and every rebalance since 2020. So we can see, for example, in 11/11, 2020, the algorithm shows the XLF, the XLE with almost 20%, and the XLY with 5.35%. All of this gave to the portfolio 7%. It's a really interesting strategy that our institutional clients really fund up. So if any of you are belong to this institutional or hedge fund world, please feel free to contact us through the website or by my mail that's here.
So basically, those strategies, the belongs or suitable for hedge funds, family offices, and investment houses that would like to take advantage of on one hand, the volatility of the market. Some of the strategies are long-only strategies, but some of the strategies are also combining long positions with short positions. The rebalancing is done every month. Every month, the algorithm is constructing a portfolio, in this case, ETF portfolio, and also providing us different weight for each specific sector, in this case, or stock. And the algorithm is also, with some of the strategies are also taking advantage of the volatility and manage to generate a positive return with short selling strategy, even this year, even in 2025. As we saw, since the beginning of the year, we started to see negative indication regarding the market. Therefore, some of the long-short strategies were focusing on the short side, and some of those strategies were taking advantage of the volatility and the negative momentum that we have seen in the market.
Yep. And as we said earlier, we have a lot of packages, a lot of packages that we can suggest to you. We have the crypto packages. We can see here a crypto forecast from the 21 of April in a 3 days time frame. We can find the cryptos, there's Solana and many others that appears On this forecast, we have more than 120 cryptocurrencies that we are applying a daily forecast for. We can see the average of this specific forecast was 14%, while the S&P moved almost 4% in a 3 days time frame. Of course, this asset has a really high volatility, so you have to manage the risk. Any other packages that we have is the word indices package. We use it a lot for market intelligence. We can follow a lot of the main indices around the globe, more than 175 indices around the globe, including the S&P, the Russell 2000, Russell 3000, a lot of the German DAX that we saw, and many other indices around the globe, the Chinese market, of course, and a lot of sectors in the US market. We also have a fixed income forecast, a commodity forecast, which also includes the gold, the silver, soybeans, and many other commodities, more than 50 commodities that you can trade on. Currencies forecast, European stocks picks, and of course, a lot of stocks from many other stock exchanges around the globe. If it's the Canadian Stock Exchange, the UK, Japan, Italy, Australia, China, Hong Kong, every big stock exchange around the globe, we can actually provide the best stocks to invest in. And of course, India as well, which we have a really big collaboration with one of the biggest brokerage firm in India, Finvazia. In this collaboration, we provide a daily forecast for more than 100,000 Indian traders. As we can see here, we provide for the Indian market from different stocks, large cap, mid cap, small cap, and 6 time frames for the Indian market. All right, let's talk about the last webinar that took place on the 30th of March. We presented this specific forecast for the next month, and I think the algorithm was amazingly accurate in this forecast. We can see the volatility, the VIX, the VXN that moves by 17 and 30% in the last month. We can also see the Nifty PSU Bank. This is the financial sector in India that also moved up by 6.8% and was located on the top of the forecast. We can also find in this specific forecast, if we're looking at the bottom of the forecast, this is, by the way, this is the indices forecast. We can see XAL, which is the airline company that moved the 13% down. In this case, we can see the Nasdaq that was negative, the S&P that was negative, and of course the Dow Jones that we can also find here negative in the bottom of the map. By the way, the Taiwan Stock Exchange, TWII, equal weighted, was also one of the high predictability and high signals assets that we saw in the bottom of the forecast, and that moved minus 8% in the last month. So this is what I owe you from the last webinar, and I think now we're gonna get to the part that we see what the algorithm thinks about the following days and the following week. And if we are opening the forecast for the next 14 days, our sector's forecast, we can see much more of a positive view in the shorter time frames. We can find the XLK and XLY are quite positive. We can see the industrial sector as well, also positive, but we still see some defensive sectors such as XLU in the top of this forecast. But the main focus is on XLK and XLY. But we can also see that the XLF, the financial sector, is also a bit negative in the 14 days time frame. And if we are looking on the indices forecast for the next month, of course, for May, we can see that the Indian market is still looking quite good. The volatility is still here, as we can see. The VXN is still in the top of the table. We can see the semiconductor is quite positive, and a lot of European stock exchanges are still positive, such as the DAX and the banks in Europe. In the bottom of the forecast, we can find again the airline company XAL is in the bottom, oil services, and the Hong Kong Stock Exchange Hang Seng is also quite negative. We can still find some negative indices from the US market. That's why we have to do some stock picks by the algorithm and find the best opportunities for long and also for short. But we can see that the semiconductors, the technology sector that we saw is quite positive, and we're seeing the market, I think, changing a little bit for the positive way, but still in the long time frame, we still see some volatilities. I mean, the volatility is appearing in all of the time frames. We're going to have a volatile year, as we saw at the beginning of this month. But again, as we showed you in this webinar, you always can find some opportunities for long and even for short and beat the market using our artificial intelligence and algorithm that we showed you in this specific webinar. So we have a lot of opportunities in the market, and feel free to use the algorithm in the 3 webinar cell that we suggested you. The institutional portfolio, again, just picking and getting those 10 stocks from the algorithm once a month, buy them for long and hold them for the entire month for 349 per month, paid every 6 months. The second webinar set is 1+1 for all of our packages for $299 without any commitment, and you can cancel it anytime. And the third webinar sale that we have is a 12-month subscription that you can choose one of the packages that we saw in this webinar and combine it with institutional portfolio. This goes for $299 per month and paid every 12 months. I think it's one of the most interesting webinar sales that we had so far that I know first.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and this is our choices. By the way, Ben shared the sectorial short-term forecast. This is the reason why I was thinking to focus on the tech sector for the coming month, along with the institutional portfolio. And the idea is to drill down into the tech sector and to use the AI in order to identify the best stocks out of the technology sector in the very same way, actually, that we saw on the beginning when we shared the forecast with Wolf, Ben. I think we didn't plan that Wolf will be the first one, actually.
Yeah. And it's really, jumping right now. So one last thing, you can again join our WhatsApp community group by scanning this QR code and get a lot of other forecasts that we are sending to this group. So feel free to do so. And I think we can answer some of the questions that we've been asked in this webinar. Yaron, what do you say?
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. There are some interesting questions I already saw. Okay, are the sector strategy included in the institutional package? Thank you for the question. The sectorial strategy, along with other institutional strategies, are available to institutional clients only. If you are an institutional client, please feel free to reach out, and we will introduce those strategies to you. On the other end, we do offer a new product that could be could be interesting for you as well, the institutional solution that we have, the institutional portfolio solution that we have introduced, basically. Okay, there is another question. If you can go to the client slide, there is a question regarding the institutional clients that are utilizing the predictive algorithm right now. So then there is a question which clients, which institutional clients are utilizing the technology, our technology right now. So the I know first predictive algorithm is being trusted by the world's leading hedge funds, family offices, banks, investment houses. With several investment houses, we have already developed together and launched different financial products that are relying on the strategies that you have seen in this webinar. Those are the clients, but also high net worth and retail clients are utilizing this forecast on a daily basis in order to identify opportunities in the market on a daily basis. Ben, I surprised you with this slide?
Yeah, that's
okay, sorry for that.
a long jump. I see another question about the institutional package. Is it gaining 3 months, 3% every month? Of course, we cannot assure you that this package will be positive every month, but I can tell you that the algorithm actually picks the best stocks with the best predictability and signal out of all of our packages and giving you the best of the best to invest in for a 1 month period. And as you see, it actually succeeded in this specific month when the market went down to provide a positive return when let's say it was a really difficult task to gain a positive return this month. The algorithm actually succeeded by doing so. So we cannot assure you that every month is going to be positive and green, but we can assure you that the algorithm will give you the best stock picks out of our entire investment universe.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see. And another thing that I would like to highlight again, one of the most important thing is to utilize the predictability indicator. And this is, the best way to identify the opportunities. Always look at the predictability. Even if you're trading for the short term, do look at the predictability for the long term, identify the most predictable stocks. This is what the AI algorithm is trying to maximize during the learning process. So make sure that you're focusing on the most predictable stocks when you're deciding on which stocks you would like to focus on.
I see Brad is asking if the sector strategies are also available for private clients. Right now, no, it's also only available for institutional clients. And the sector strategy that we talked about. So let's see if we have any other question that we didn't answer it.
Yes, a lot of interesting questions today related to the institutional portfolio specifically, but I think we answered all of them. People are asking regarding the weight. The weight is equally weighted. And this is important thing. The results that you see in the portfolio slide is basically relying on the closing prices at the day of the rebalancing. This is the idea when you receiving the portfolio every month.
Yeah,
Just
it's an
execute it based.
important point. When you receive the 10 assets, it's referring to the closing prices of the same trading day. So we keep that in mind when you logging into the service. And last question, we have a
Volunteer. Okay. Okay. There is a question regarding how to know where the strongest performance of the algorithm is when you're receiving the forecast. So again, I would suggest if you would like to get the best performance, I would suggest to focus on the most predictable assets. Of course, try to combine it with the signal, but the first step is to focus on the most predictable asset in each forecast. It doesn't matter which investment universe you would decide to focus on. The most important thing is to focus on the most predictable assets. And we have showed you, and also after you subscribing, you are receiving instructions that giving you all the details that you need to know first in order to identify the most predictable assets.
all right. Thank you guys for joining us for our monthly webinar. I hope you had some interesting thoughts and enjoyed the webinar. And we'll see you next month again in our monthly webinar. Thank you for joining us, and feel free to approach us.
Thank you. I see some people has problems to get some of the deals. Please do try in few minutes. It's apparently because of the high volume, some of the deals might be you might need to reload the page again, but it's going to be available. Let's say in the next 10 minutes. Okay. Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure. It's good to see so many people. It was a really pleasure. Thank you very much for this.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Ben. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you, Gara.